The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. A psychological map that guides humanity through the fractures of the inner self. We often delude ourselves that perfection is the ultimate destination, flawless, failure-free, pain-free. Yet this very delusion forms an invisible cage that shackles our will, causing us to falter before every journey. In truth, every stumble is a trial by fire for the self, a crack in the armor of pride that reveals the delicate yet brimming with potential core within. Rising after a fall is the journey of soul reconstruction. It demands we confront the raw feeling of failure head-on, swallow the shame whole, and alchemize both into fuel for growth. Like a tree felled by the wind, if its roots run deep enough, it does not die, it grips the earth even tighter. In the same way, every time we rise, the nervous system learns to adapt, the mind forges resilience, and rebirth quietly unfolds. True glory is not the dazzling halo of invincibility, but the quiet, smoldering flame of resilience. It burns silently, without fanfare, persistent as water wearing away stone. The strong are not those who have never fallen, but those who have fallen enough to understand. Failure does not define them. The way they rise truly forges their authentic identity. And in that single moment of brushing off the dust, lifting the head, and taking the next step, glory blooms, silent and profound, deep within the soul. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The world pressures us not only with visible forces, societal expectations, success benchmarks, the gaze of others, but also slips quietly into our awareness, gradually reshaping us into ready-made molds. In that current, our original I is slowly eroded, like a painting buried beneath layer after layer of thick new color until its first form fades into oblivion. Holding fast to yourself is not a static state, but a living, awakened journey. It is the ability to discern the true inner voice from the programmed external noise of the environment. Like standing in the heart of a raging whirlpool. Without a solid center, we are easily swept away without even noticing. That steadfastness does not come from rigidity, but from a profound knowing of our own values, boundaries, and deepest longings. This is the highest expression of personal integrity when we no longer need masks to be accepted, nor trade our true identity for approval. It is quiet courage, because it means accepting misunderstanding, isolation, even outright rejection. Yet it is precisely in that solitude that we discover a rare freedom, the freedom to simply be ourselves. The greatest achievement does not lie in the fame or status we attain, but in the authentic fragment that remains after every collision with the world. To walk through invisible pressures and still preserve the core is not only victory over the outer world, it is the deepest victory within the inner life. The disillusionment in life is realizing that no one can truly agree with you completely on anything. Gertrude Stein. The mind falls from the bridge of illusion it once built. The illusion of perfect harmony between one soul and another. We grow up believing that somewhere there must be someone who understands us utterly, thinks as we think, feels as we feel, as though souls could simply be copied. Yet reality gently, coldly shatters that belief. Each individual is a unique universe, woven from experiences, memories, and wounds that can never be duplicated. This disillusionment is not mere loss, but a profound shift in perception. It forces us to release the need for complete agreement and step into a deeper realm of understanding, accepting difference as inevitable. Like two parallel lines traveling the same direction, moving forward together, yet never touching, humans can empathize, can share, but can never fully dissolve into one another. The craving for absolute agreement springs from the primal fear of isolation. When we realize no one stands exactly where we stand, we face the void like a voice echoing in empty space with no reply. But it is precisely in that silence that a new power awakens, the power to affirm our own worth without needing total consensus from the outside. Disillusionment is not the death of faith in others, but its maturation. We stop seeking perfect alignment and instead learn to cherish the rare points where inner worlds intersect. And when we accept that no one is exactly like us, we unconsciously grant ourselves the right to be different. A profound freedom where solitude ceases to be fear and becomes the sacred space in which the true I can exist most fully. I often lose myself in order to rediscover the fire that keeps everything alive. Federico García Lorca. Sometimes we must lose our way before we can truly find it. Losing oneself here does not mean total disintegration, but the deliberate shedding of familiar shells, outdated self-definitions, confining roles, once safe beliefs that have become cages. It is the moment we step beyond the familiar zone of recognition. Like a fire that must blaze fiercely, consuming its own fuel simply to keep burning. If we cling to a stable version of ourselves, that flame slowly dies for lack of room to transform. Therefore, losing becomes an act of rebirth. We allow ourselves to fall into controlled chaos so the old parts can burn away, making space for new possibilities. This is the mark of a fluid self, never fixed, never framed, always in motion. It is like daring to walk into darkness, not because we enjoy being lost, but because we trust that hidden sparks of fire await discovery there. Every loss of self is an experiment at the edge of who we are, touching the unnamed territories of the soul. This journey is not instability, it is the deepest loyalty to life itself. We refuse to exist as a flickering lamp, safe yet dull. We choose to become the flame, sometimes roaring fiercely, sometimes seeming to die, yet always carrying the power to reignite. In that very loss, we do not vanish, we are only changing form, keeping the inner life forever radiant and ceaselessly alive. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Thomas A. Edison. We often stop not because we cannot go on, but because we cannot see how far we have already come. In the middle of the journey, fatigue, doubt, and vague signals cloud the mind, making us feel motionless even though we have traveled far. Like the well digger who quits just before striking water, not for lack of strength, but for lack of faith in the depth already reached. The problem lies in how the brain processes rewards. We need clear signals to stay motivated, yet success arrives silently, accumulating through nearly invisible steps. When no immediate result appears, we fall into the illusion that every effort has been meaningless. That very illusion creates the fatal break in willpower, where quitting suddenly feels logical to the one inside the storm, though utterly irrational from the wider view. At a deeper level, this is the clash between perseverance and the limits of endurance. Every step closer to success increases the pressure, for we stand at the border between the old self and the new, where the old is no longer enough, yet the new has not yet formed. The haze of uncertainty makes many turn back, as though afraid to cross the very door they have labored so hard to reach. Failure is not always caused by lack of ability. More often, it is the result of stopping too soon. The difference between those who succeed and those who quit is sometimes only a few final steps taken in total darkness, where nothing is guaranteed except the quiet belief that the light is very near. And it is in those blind steps that human will is tested to its limit. Either turn away and call it the end, or press forward one more time and suddenly touch what once seemed impossible. A goal without a plan is just a wish. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. We often mistake longing for action. A goal that lives only in thought possesses an ideal beauty, vague, inspiring, yet weightless in reality. Like a distant lighthouse, we see the light but without a map and a route. That light merely fuels dreams instead of carrying us to shore. A plan is the bridge between imagination and reality, between desire and result. It creates structure, a system that moves the mind from haze to clear direction. Without a plan, the mind scatters and procrastinates, because there is no starting point and no measure of progress. But when a goal is broken into clear steps, it becomes tangible, and each completed step sends a reward signal that strengthens inner drive. Lacking a plan is not merely a lack of method, it also reveals an unconscious fear, the fear of commitment. Because planning forces us to face the possibility of failure, to define exactly what we will do and how far we will carry responsibility. A mere wish, by contrast, feels safer. It lets us dream without paying the price, hope without having to act. The difference between those who remain in wishing and those who reach their goals lies not in the intensity of desire, but in the ability to turn desire into concrete structure. A plan does not need to be perfect, it only needs to exist, like a rugged road that still leads forward. And in every step, whether slow or off course, We gradually leave the world of what if and enter the living reality of what is done. Do not wait for leaders, do it alone, person by person. Mother Teresa. We often delay action by handing responsibility to some powerful figure. It feels safer to believe that real change must begin with someone bigger, a leader, a system, a perfect circumstance. Yet that belief in the end is a subtle escape. It lets us justify our own inaction. When we wait, we cast ourselves as spectators rather than creators. We watch life as a stage where others perform while we merely react. That reminder pulls us out of psychological dependence and forces us to face an uncomfortable truth: the power to change lives in the small, continuous actions of each individual. Do it, person by person, is not a call to recklessness, but a philosophy of accumulation. Just as persistent drops of water can carve through solid stone, every individual, acting from their own place, contributes to a greater movement. Responsibility stops feeling like a burden and becomes pure energy. When you do what must be done without waiting for permission, you redefine yourself from dependent to free creator. This is the shift from a being-led mindset to a proactive mindset. It demands courage because you can no longer hide behind excuses like "it's not the right time" or "there is no guide yet." In exchange, you gain the profound feeling of steering your own life, even if only within the smallest circles. It is not about denying the role of leaders, but shattering the illusion that we must wait for them before we begin. When each person lights their own small action, the world does not change in a sudden explosion. It changes like dawn, slow, quiet, and utterly irreversible. I am not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. Stephen Covey. Circumstances, with all their limits and injustices, are always a convenient explanation. They help us understand why we are here, yet they also chain us to that very spot. When we believe we are merely products of circumstance, we surrender the power to define ourselves to the outside world and live as passive beings whose lives are nothing but reactions. But when we shift to the view, "I am a product of my decisions," a profound transformation occurs in the very structure of the psyche. The center of gravity moves from what has happened to how we choose to respond. Circumstances may set boundaries, but only decisions draw the final outline of a life. Two people can stand in the same storm. One curls inward in fear, the other steps forward despite trembling, and that single choice creates two entirely different destinies. This does not deny the weight of circumstance. It simply places it where it belongs as context, never as verdict. Decisions, even the tiniest ones, are cumulative. Each choice, a brushstroke that at first seems scattered but slowly forms the complete portrait of who you are. The paradox is this: it is precisely in those seemingly insignificant moments, choosing persistence over quitting, honesty over avoidance, action over delay, that your true identity is shaped most clearly. This is the transformation from a victim mindset to a creator mindset. It is not comfortable because it comes with full responsibility. If you are the product of your decisions, you cannot escape their consequences. Yet at the same time, it is the greatest source of power, because if decisions made you who you are today, new decisions can recreate you tomorrow. You are not trapped by the past or by circumstance, you are always becoming. And in every choice, no matter how small, you are quietly rewriting yourself, not as a product being manufactured, but as a living work of art shaped by your own hands. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. Zig Ziglar. We are often enchanted by the result, fame, wealth, recognition, as though that single moment holds all the meaning. Yet the result is only a fleeting instant, while the journey toward it is a long, silent chain of inner transformations. Every goal is life's clever pretext to force you to change. On that journey, you learn far more than how to perform better. You learn endurance, adaptation, and the redefinition of limits. Failures teach patience. Doubt teaches trust. Moments of wanting to quit force you to meet the true nature of your will. Just as metal must pass through fire to harden, a human being must pass through pressure to forge character. This is the shift from an outcome mindset to a being mindset. When you focus only on what is achieved, success itself can leave you empty because once the goal vanishes, nothing remains to hold on to. But when you focus on who you are becoming, every single step carries value regardless of the final result. Success then ceases to be the destination and becomes the natural consequence of a person who has changed deeply enough. Sometimes you reach the goal yet lose yourself, becoming exhausted, hollow, or estranged from the values you once held. Conversely, some never touch the finish line, yet emerge far stronger, deeper, and freer than when they began. In the end, the person you become is what endures. The result is only something you temporarily possess. A goal is never about what it gives you, it is about who it turns you into. When you look back, the most precious thing is not the destination you reached, but the version of yourself that grew mature enough to arrive there. And it is that person, not the prize, who stands as the deepest triumph of the entire journey. If you are working on something you love and truly care about, you don't need anyone to motivate you. Your vision will pull you forward. Steve Jobs. This is the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. When we work only for pressure, rewards, or recognition, we become machines that constantly need an external push. But when the work touches our genuine curiosity, meaning, and inner longing, an entirely different energy awakens, quiet, inexhaustible, like an underground river that never runs dry. Vision here is not a vague dream, but a vivid, living image of what you want to become or create. It acts as a magnetic pull, drawing you forward even when no one is watching or urging you on. Unlike ordinary motivation, a push from behind vision is a call from ahead, making you step forward willingly, even eagerly. When you truly care about what you do, the brain shifts from I must to I want. Work ceases to be a burden and becomes an extension of who you are. Time itself transforms. Hours of effort are no longer depletion but natural investment. The more you give, the more fulfilled you become. Vision does more than guide, it reshapes you. When you are pulled by a goal large enough, you are compelled to grow worthy of it. Old limits break not through force, but because you have no other choice if you wish to move closer to what you see so clearly in your mind. Finding your true flame. When you discover what genuinely moves you, you no longer need discipline as coercion, because the vision itself becomes the guiding force. And on that journey, you are not reluctantly pushed, you are irresistibly pulled by the very meaning you have chosen to believe in.